hey. If you have ever read through an essay, which if you haven't, here it is. I'll give you like 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Okay, after I have totally read through that essay, I left out my essay talking about this idea of taking a more mediary approach between this conversation of limitless self-expression versus order in relation to Ralph Waldo Emerson's work called self-reliance. I believe most people expect me to talk about a world that isn't too expressive and isn't too orderly. That's sort of what that would look like, and 5 minutes later, boom, you have a video essay. But I didn't really like that approach, to say the least. That idea is something that already exists in our world, and if you've ever seen our world, you know it doesn't really work too well. So where the hell do we go now from here? Well, walk with me. In our current world, we have a system of rules and orders that prevent us from doing stuff such as openly punching people in the face that I disagree with. So, what happens when you openly punch someone in the face that you disagree with? Well, usually you have an authority figure come up to you, and this authority figure maybe manhandles you, maybe aggressively cuffs you into the back of his cruiser, where you are then punished with the apt punishment. Well, there's some issues to this, and what I conclude is
punishment only serves to solve the short-term issue rather than the long-term issue of harmful self-expression, as punishment might stop someone temporarily, but it doesn't create understanding or change long-term attitudes.
Whoa, that was a doozy. Oh, you might be wondering, where were we walking to? Well, I wanted to show you the Central San Diego Courthouse, home of the Superior Court of California of San Diego. Some pretty important cases have been served and ruled upon here. One of the most notable from recent memory being that of the TikToker Jin Kid. You know, that guy that used to act like Tony Montana online until... yeah, he's a psychopath. Well, his real name is Ali Abulabon, and for what we know about this case, he did not even show an ounce of remorse for what he had done, even after being sentenced to 2 counts of first-degree murder. The dude cared more about his acting career than the 2 people he just had killed. And it doesn't really take a psychologist to figure out why he was crying after being sentenced. I mean, where were the tears before, Ali? No, that dude did not care at all. Okay, enough of me digging on this guy. What does this have to do with the prior claim that I said? Well, it is pretty clear that the deterrence that punishment should offer to people who commit crimes like murder lacks much of an effect. How could someone as ruthless and uncompassionate as Ali care about such rules when in the spur of the moment he finds murder to be more important than the consequences? What this shows is that a system that promotes punishment as a form of systematic control does not help to address the root causes for harmful self-expression, like lack of empathy or understanding, with this being supported by research in the field. Cool transition. Alright, no more fancy city background. Well, anyways, in a study done by researchers at the University of New South Wales in 2020, they found that punishments don't actually reduce harmful self-expressive behaviors and actions, such as Ali's, with, and I quote, "People are not turning their mind in a rational, calculating way using cost-benefit of whether the punishment outweighs the benefit," with all this essentially meaning that, yes, punishment doesn't stop all crime, or in other words, deter it. This finding is further supported by the National Research Council of the National Academies in 2014. In this study, they analyzed the growth of the national incarceration rate in the U.S. and the effects of these rates over time. What they found, in conjunction with the last source, is that increasing the amount of imprisonment doesn't actually create a lot of change in harmful self-expressive behaviors. Rather, it creates a disproportionate imprisonment of people from minority and low-income communities and creates social harm to all the people on the outside of the system. With the real reasons for the lowering of harmful self-expression being due to shifts in behaviors with prisoners, such as getting too old when put under long sentences, not because of the direct effects of prison. And even aside from those studies, statistically speaking, the use of punishment to deter criminal activity, or in our case, harmful self-expression, actually doesn't statistically reduce said activity, only very marginally, as proven by a meta-analysis done by Catholic University Law Review on 3 cities, that being Boston, Mesa, Arizona, literally just Phoenix, and Washington, D.C. in 2025. In this study, they analyzed the robbery averages of these cities before and after sentencing press releases, or, in other words, robbery averages before and after announcing the punishment for the said crime. What they found, and this comes from their own words, is that punishment or deterrence doesn't affect the amount of crime that happens overall. And as you can see by these charts I'm going to be putting on screen, the average for the amount of robberies post and pre-release have barely changed at all. There's only very small deviations in the percentages over that time period. And although over a larger amount of time, this does change more significantly, as seen by this chart, it seems to be caused by other factors, as the change in data is not aligned with the amount of press releases, or is not uniform with the press release data. Whew. Wow. Okay, that was a lot to go through. You still with me? And not doom scrolling for like the millionth time? Well, if you're not, then you should be asking the question of what we should be taking away from this. Well, it's pretty clear that punishment or deterrence is proven to not help reduce any harmful self-expression, meaning we can now eliminate the order conversation. Not completely, but I'll get to that. But now where do we go from here? Well, we now know that order can't help us solve the tension and self-reliance. Then maybe we should look towards limitless self-expression. Nah, that doesn't seem like a good idea. So, that means we get to move on to the next part of my argument. So, what I propose is maybe we shouldn't punish anyone, but rather implement a system that promotes compassion amongst its people rather than enacting punishment as a one-all solution for self-expressive thoughts that are harmful. Boom! Mind blown. I mean, think about it. If the key to reducing harmful self-expression is to reduce behaviors that create harmful self-expression, then creating an understanding of the wrongfulness behind harmful self-expression, tongue twister, then we need to change the way people express themselves to others. If we were to implement a system, see, I told you I'd get back to that argument, that rewarded those who act kindly in society and taught people the wrongfulness of their ways rather than punishing them for it, it will create a long-term growth that teaches people to act responsibly and respectfully, addressing the societal root cause to harmful self-expressive thoughts amongst everyone. Okay, I hear your criticism. Pluto, look at sucker! How will compassion solve anything? Will compassion give me superpowers to blast all the evil people away around me? And will it give me a radar to see how people will wrong me into the future? Will compassion allow me to unlock my third eye and transcend this current human existence into a celestial being of power? First of all, this has nothing to do with unlocking your third eye. Second of all, my system of promoting compassion doesn't only just use compassion, but a form of resistance too. As the rules I set in this societal scenario will follow that of game theory, more specifically, the prisoner's dilemma. And before I talk about the prisoner's dilemma, there is some credence to what that disgruntled man just said. A study done at Emory University of Law did a study in 2005 that showed that capital punishment, more well known as the death sentence, does reduce harmful self-expression if and only if the amount of people capitally punished is higher than the threshold. Otherwise, it is pretty ineffective, with this threshold being 8 or more deaths. And yeah, killing people is very effective, but do you really want to live in a world where committing a crime could mean death, even by accident? Because yeah, stuff like that does happen. It's somewhat often too. I mean, just look at China, the worst offender of this. Tell me what their political situation is like currently. Well, it's not great at all. Anyways, tangent aside, many people have heard of the prisoner's dilemma, but maybe not what it truly means. For those who haven't heard the scenario is two prisoners can confess to each other. If one chooses to confess, the other goes free, and the other gets the maximum sentence. If they both confess, they both get jailed. If neither confesses, they both get the minimum sentence. What this theory proves is that cooperation leads to better outcomes, as if you put this scenario in relation to real life, you realize much of life is a zero-sum game that can have multiple outcomes. To increase the best outcomes, you need to play fair and cooperatively. However, the best approach to this theory is not to fully cooperate, but to resist. And to resist when other players backstab you. This coined tit-for-tat theory, as proposed by famous YouTuber Veritasium, after rigorously data testing the theorem, helps to best explain the truth about life, that nothing can be fully succeeded without the help from others, but you shouldn't let people take full advantage of your cooperation. And this is pretty much what I've been talking about. We can use compassion to help treat harmful self-expressive behaviors by giving people a way to better cooperate with each other, as cooperation, as proven by game theory, leads to the best outcomes. Whereas we can use a system of rewards and teachings to prevent instances of exploitative situations amongst people. Or, in other words, stopping the bad people from doing bad things by being nice for all the subway surfers people. And guys, I really don't expect things to completely change to where everyone now says hi back to you when you say hi, but I do want to make people aware of the true brokenness of our current system of law and order. Please don't just take one look at this video and think it's some trash, whatever, Twitter, whatever the heck, social media thing, because I really do think I've uncovered something pretty integral to our society as a whole, that punishment doesn't really work, and kind of making everything that we know about our laws less meaningful. So, the next time you see your loved one, friend, neighbor, teacher, pet, alien, whatever, struggling with something, maybe just try giving them a hand, at least once, as a kind world is a better world. Goodbye, everybody.